You probably aren't charging enough money for your businesses, and today I want to talk about why I think that might be. Hey, you guys, I'm Jonah Magnus. I own and operate martial arts studios, and I've been able to help a couple of my friends be a little bit more successful in their business. And I want to talk about what's worked for me and them so far. In the marketplace, there is three spots you can be when you start a new service or you start a new product, and it's top, middle, and bottom. Today, we're going to talk about, in my opinion, what's the least successful, at least it was for me, and why I think being at the top is the most successful. So let's get started. So I have my lovely picture right here. We have our top, middle, and bottom. For being in the middle, you see there's a lot of people. The top, we're on our own, but we'll get to that. But in the middle, there's a lot of people, which basically means you're just a commodity. My best example of this, of like what a commodity is and why this might be a bad thing, is go on Amazon, type in any product, and you'll see 1,000 different options pop up. That's because they're all just more or less the same, trying to get as close to each other in price, trying to inch up cent by cent, dollar by dollar to maximize their margins. And you're more or less, in my opinion, competing on luck. When you're competing like that, it's really hard to make it super successful. And that makes it so that way the market's just saturated. And let me go back and say, I was like this. I thought it used to be the best competitive advantage to be ranked number 2 in your market. So for us, we found whoever was charging the most and we wanted to be just underneath them. But then I was competitively fighting to tell everybody in my community that I was serving that I am the number 2 person here. That's why you should be with me. But I don't believe that. I think my product, my services are the best. And so I wanted to price accordingly. But before we get to that, let's talk about the benefits of being towards the bottom. There's a lot less people here, and that's because it's a lot harder to get your margins profiting, period, and having a high enough volume to make this a successful business. But it is very possible. There are like streaming services like Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, and thousands of others. And they operate their business on charging a pretty low price and offering a lot, but having a huge customer base. And that is what makes them super successful, is keeping their price down, their margins are really high, and they just have a lot of volume. Closer to my industry, especially in the fitness world, is Planet Fitness, Anytime Fitness. They charge a really low monthly rate and have a ton of customers. And that has worked for them. And so it is possible to be at the bottom of the market and be really successful. I just don't like that from my perspective as being a small business owner. And so what I opted for was going to the top of the market. And part of that came with belief in myself, but we'll talk about the product in a second. How I got to my number was A, looking at my competition, but then B, thinking through 10x and 100xing my products. So if you 10x your product, then say you charge $100, you 10x it, you're charging $1,000. So what would you do relative to your $100 that you're charging for your service at 10 times that? If you're charging $1,000 instead of $100, what more would you provide? What more could you provide? Because now you're operating with more money to reinvest in yourself, reinvest in the business, reinvest in the product. And going even more extreme, if you 100 times it, so you're charging $10,000 for your services, what would you do for $10,000 a month or per person that would change, that would make it $100,000 in value, but you're getting paid 10? So that's the biggest mindset shift, is being able to take these frameworks and go through and think, what would you need to change to still have more value than these two prices? Because right now, I guarantee your $100, you're providing way more value than that. So what would you have to change, if anything, to supersede the value you're charging for and get more money out of the situation? Part of it comes down to, like I said, for myself, it was belief in myself, knowing that my product was outstanding. And at first, that was really hard for me, because around the time we were looking at changing up our prices and pushing to the top of the market, we lost one of our best coaches, best instructors. And so I had to refocus from outreach and clients to fixing my product, making sure our services were still the top tier, because I planned on charging the top prices, but I had to make sure that my product was well in excess of the value that the clients were providing with their dollars. And so what that looked like for me was, when I raised my prices, I had to make sure my team and my instructors and my coaches were all able to provide the same level of service that I would expect even when our prices were lower, and then pushing them up and up and up. So before you think about adjusting your prices, look at your product. Think through how awesome you are with your product and think through what needs to be improved to make you feel as confident as you should be to be at the top of your market. We charge 20% higher than everybody else in our area. And I think that's because we are significantly better in terms of what we are providing and what we are doing. So I want to encourage you guys to do the same thing, because the more money you have coming in, not only will you stay at the top of the market that way because you have more resources to improve yourself, your product, and your team, that keeps you at the top of the market and keeps you a lot more competitive and a lot more sustainable using the $1,000, the $10,000, and thinking about what about your product you can improve upon. What would you guys change, improve, if anything, to make sure your product is the best it can be? Because for myself, I found that with improving my team, especially after I lost one of my best instructors and coaches, I need to make sure my product was still up at the top of the market to charge top of the market prices. But part of that came from, after I knew the product was solid, was accepting that I need to charge those prices. Because in my opinion, to be at the top and to stay at the top, you need to charge the most, because that way I'm taking all that excess and being able to reinvest it into myself, my product, and my team. So if you guys found this helpful, share this with somebody else who you think they should charge more money in their business, and I'll see you guys in the next one.